Hello and welcome to the show. If this is your first time listening, my name is Tavishima Ayede and I'm your host. I'm a former lawyer turned business consultant, and what I do every single day over here is I solve business problems. And today we are today we're going to be using a listener of the podcast as a case study. Now, his name is Josh, and he has a few business interests, but the one that we're going to be talking about today is AGM Maritime Logistics. Now, I consider them to be a freight forwarding company. So far, I don't think he agrees that they're a freight forwarding company, but anyway, we're going to use them as a case study and we're going to discuss a whole bunch of stuff because, as is normal, when you have a business, you're running a business, you're coming into something new, or even if you've been in an established business for any length of time, typically you don't just have only one problem. Like there's a main problem, and then there's a side problem, and then there's a secondary problem, and then on and on and on. So, lots of issues involved. Anyway, so for Josh and AGM Logistics, for some of the ideas that we're going to share here today, this is not. The things that we're going to share are not the result of a consultation. So we didn't have he and I didn't sit down for a consultation, just exchange a couple of WhatsApp messages. And as a courtesy, for those of you who listen to the podcast and reach out to me, I'm okay with sharing some ideas about how best you can solve your business problems or what it is that you ought to do next, even if we don't have um, a consulting session. So we're going to do this in two steps because the issues to be discussed are plenty. They are varied. So let's just say we'll do this in two steps, or hopefully I'll be able to do this in two steps. If not, it might be longer. So, for today's podcast episode, I'm just going to introduce the company that is AGM Maritime Logistics based out of Lagos and some of the issues that Josh and I discussed in WhatsApp. Then, tomorrow, if I'm able to manage my time properly, we're going to go into specific questions that Josh himself would like to be addressed. And by the way, if you'd love to get in touch with me just like Josh did, then you call me, you send me a text message or a WhatsApp message on 080-6466-2140. And if you don't have 30, 40 minutes to listen to podcast episodes every day when I drop them, then send me a message on WhatsApp, 080-6466-2140. Then ask to be joined to the WhatsApp group, and I'll send you the link. You'll be a part of the WhatsApp group where you're going to receive podcast summaries, 3 to 5 minutes, easy reads in PDF format, so that you can just stay there every day and read the summaries there every day. Then, when you have a bit more time, maybe like you're going to the gym or you're driving to work or something, you can load up longer podcast episodes. Oh, excuse me. Okay, sorry, let me look at my notes because I had to make a couple of notes to guide me on this one. Okay, so AGM Maritime Logistics. Well, first off, interesting name because AGM is a very popular business name. So that's the first thing I asked him when he said it was with AGM. I wanted to know which AGM because in Nigeria, the AGMs are plenty. So maybe from a branding standpoint, perhaps when you're coming into business, it might help if you select a business name that can be uniquely yours, so that you're not going to be confused with another company. So this is AGM Maritime Logistics, and this company is not related to the other bigger AGMs that you know in the financial sector and all those other spaces. So this is not related to that AGM. So the way Josh describes the company, they're a service-based company, and they operate out of Trade Fair in Lagos. Now it's been a while since I was in Lagos, but I'm not sure if Trade Fair is like Apapa side. Is it Apapa side? Anyway, I can't remember. Sha. So they're located in Trade Fair. And what they do is they help importers with shipping, they help with clearing goods, and they also help with nationwide delivery. Now, that's the reason why I thought, they're a freight forwarder, but, he didn't confirm or deny. So, Josh says that the company is new and they opened their physical office in March of 2026. Now, to give perspective, We are making today's podcast episode on. Sorry, what's today's date? Sorry, one moment. Okay, so for perspective, we're recording today's episode on the 31st of July. So they have been in operations just March, and this is currently the end of July. So how many months is that? March, April, May, June, July. Okay, so they are a 5-month-old company. Company's been in existence for 5 months. Let's keep that in mind. So Josh says that initially they started as a clearing agency, and they've now expanded to shipping services because people requested for it. Now Josh has been instrumental in branding the company, handling things from registration and website design to advertising copy and then taglines. Now you see why I say whenever people say they are branding the company, it confuses me because remember the last guy, Bab Lims, the fashion guy in Ikiti. So for Bab Lims clothing, after the podcast episode, he admitted to me that when he said he's building a brand, what he actually meant was building a business. So when someone like Bab Lims says building a brand, he means the sort of things that I mean when I say grow your sales. But then now we have another person here, as Josh from AGM, who, when he says building a brand, what he means is registration, website design, ad copy, taglines, designs, things like that. So, for those of you who are going to reach out to me in the future, when you say building a brand and I say, look, what do you mean? I'm not trying to be quarrelsome. I'm just trying to understand because that is one expression that when people say it, it can mean any number of things. So I don't assume. I just want to know. Now, since Joshua, when he says building a brand, he's talking about registration, website design, ad copy, taglines, colors and fonts. My immediate concern when I hear things like this from people is, do you have any plan for prospecting or any plan for physical outreach? Now, for those of you who've been listening to the podcast for any length of time, you already understand what it is that I said. But let me explain for the people who are joining the podcast today, because there's always someone who is just listening to the podcast for the first time. Prospecting is the activity or the strategy or the practice or the discipline that we do in sales when we start thinking about who might need our product, who might need our service, who might be interested in our product or service. That's one. Then, where can we find them, either online or offline? That is two. Now, when we know where these people are, how can we come up with a plan for starting conversations with them? That is three. Because the fact that we know them and we can identify them doesn't mean that sales will just come automatically. Sales comes as a result of having a series of conversations with people, whether online or offline. So we need to have a plan for having conversations with these people. So, what is the plan for prospecting? What is the plan for AI outreach? Now, later on in the episode, you're going to see that, of course, the Joshua and his people, because they're a team of three, they came up with some plans. But there is something that I've been saying time and time again on the podcast that I don't think people are paying attention to. Even on my radio show, I talk about it, and I don't think people are beginning to make the connection that when it comes to prospecting, all right, thinking about who is interested in your product or your service, where does this person hang out? Where do these people hang out? How can I initiate a conversation with them? How do I build relationships with them? Things like that. How do I figure out what they want? I don't think Nigerian business owners have clocked that AI can be a very helpful tool in this process. I'm being serious here. I'm not just saying this thing because everybody's talking AI. I'm just saying that the rest of the world is moving on. People in different fields, whether it's apologetics or engineering or the sciences or the arts, they are learning how to deal with AI. And then those of us here in Nigeria in the business sector, we're not using AI for anything. If we're using it for anything, we're only using it for content production. I keep saying time and time again, excuse me, that the chief benefit of AI, in my own opinion, is that it's a good ideation tool. Ideation just means coming up with ideas. You wake up in the morning, your head is blank. You need a couple of ideas about how you're going to, excuse me, approach particular people or particular customer segments. Are you going to wait until you come across an online influencer before you get some ideas? By the way, I don't consider myself to be an influencer. We have these high power tools in our pockets. They're very easy to operate. In fact, we don't even have to type anymore because Gemini now has that microphone thing. You click on the microphone and you just talk like you are talking to the thing. So you don't even need to know how to type anymore. A lot of us are not using these tools to help. AI can be very helpful. All you have to do is come up with a simple prompt. Don't use your name, by the way. Well, for me, how will I put it? When you're using AI tools, don't put any personal information in there, except if it's personal information that you are comfortable with it being on the internet. Now, for me, I have no problem with. In fact, I want every single Nigerian to know my name, so I have no problem with that. But in this case, all you have to do is to say, um, "My name is Josh. I've started a new maritime company called AGM Maritime Logistics. This is, you now describe it. We're relatively new. We're based in Apapa. We're a clearing agency. We've expanded into shipping services. And I want to come up with a prospecting plan. Give me good ideas for customer segments that we should target and activities that would make a good, or let's say now, activities that could make a good, okay, no, scratch that. Uh, yeah, give me an idea for a prospecting plan that I can use to go after segments that might be interested in our product or service. Then you hit send. That's a simple prompt. In fact, you don't have to type, like I said. You go into Gemini, the microphone is there. Press that microphone, just talk. Now, I can assure you that it'll give you a couple of suggestions, maybe seven, eight, nine, 10, and some of those things you say, this is absolute crap. Ignore the ones that you think are absolute crap. But I can assure you, you will find one or two things that make sense. Take those one or two things and then run with it. If you take that mindset, using AI to try and solve business problems in this particular way, you will go far. In fact, I like it when people do that because when somebody reaches out to me to say, this is my business, this is what I've started, this is where I've gone, these were the problems, I try to use AI, this is how I try to solve it, this is where I hook. I find that those are the most productive conversations to have. Those people have tried something very specific, they're heading somewhere, and they're hooked. They now just need my help to untangle them small so that they can make progress and get to the promised land. AI tools can be very helpful. In this case, you can come up with, you can use your AI tools to come up with a plan for prospecting that will include mailing campaigns, email campaigns, or calling campaigns. First of all, you would use the AI tool, like if you're in Josh's case, first of all, to research the kinds of businesses in Lagos that will require the services of a freight forwarder. When you're coming in new, your primary problem is you don't even know who is who, like who might even need your product or your service. The thing is, you don't really know. So that's the first thing to research. My name is Josh. I started up a company, Maritime Logistics, based in Lagos, in Apapa. We're a clearing agency. We have a physical office, and we're expanding to shipping services. Which kinds or categories of businesses in Lagos might need this kind of service? Bam, hit send. I assure you, whatever AI tool you're using will give you a list, maybe 20 different categories or something. Maybe of those 20, you think 10 of them don't make sense. The ones that don't make sense, ignore. The remaining 10 that make sense, good. We can now start coming up with a plan with these different segments now. What is the plan that we can start attracting these people, attracting these people, attracting these people? But use these tools for ideation. Start coming up with ideas. Now, let's say you do this and um, you now settle on, I don't know, let's say Igbo traders in what's that market? Alaba market, Abi? Is it Alaba? I can't remember. It's been a while since I was in Lagos. So let's say you settle on three Igbo traders in Alaba market. Then what again? What again? What again? Then forgive me, I'm out of ideas this morning. But anyway, we just have one now. Okay, good. So if we have settled on one, that is Igbo traders in Alaba International Market. Okay, good. The next thing will now be you now ask the AI tool to give you a list of specific companies that operate within that market. If it gives you a list of 30 companies, and let's say 15 of those companies happen to be fake, but then 15 companies happen to be real, can you see that your prospecting plan is beginning to take shape? Because now you have a segment, traders, Alaba International Market, and you now have a list of 15 companies that actually exist within that market with phone numbers that you can now call or physical locations that you can go to start marketing your product or your services. This is how the Nigerian business person should be grappling with AI to try and solve our business problems. Now, it does not matter which AI tool you use because some people come and say which is the best. See, forget that whole best thing. There is no best. Whichever one that you use or whichever one, your friends or your mentor or whoever introduced to you is perfectly fine. Now, I use tools within the Google suite, not because they're the best, but just because, Google integrates well with every single device. And I'm an Android user. Precisely because if my phone gets stolen today, I want to be able to go and buy a cheap Android tomorrow. And once I sign in, all my history is there. Everything I did on Google Keep is there. Everything I did on Google Gemini is there. Everything I did on Google Transcribe or Google Excel or Google Sheets or Google Documents or Google whatever, every single thing will be there. So I recommend Google not because it's the best, but just this whole simple something like it integrates well with everything. And if worse comes to worse, I can just buy a cheap phone, assuming I'm broke. I can buy a cheap phone, or I can buy a cheap laptop, or I can buy a cheap whatever, and I am good to go. I'm back in business. So you don't have to use Gemini, just like me. If you want to use this one that is made by Anthropic, what are they called? Claude. If Claude is your thing, good. Then Elon Musk was his own Grok. If you want to use Grok, good. Some people even use app specific. There was somebody I was talking to, and I said, okay, use ChatGPT. She said, no, she uses Snapchat AI. I asked her, which one is Snapchat AI? She said, Snapchat has AI. I said, are you sure? She said, yes. I said, isn't Snapchat the one that you be taking pictures and everything? She said, yes, they have their own AI. I said, okay, no problem. Run it now. Let us see. She ran it, and I won't lie. I was impressed by the results. I said, even Snapchat has AI. So, Snapchat AI, use it. Zuckerberg them they've entered the game too. WhatsApp Business Assistant, that is the Facebook AI tool native there in your WhatsApp inbox. Use it. So whichever AI you want to use it, the results are impressive. Don't worry about which one is best. So you can see that Nigerian business owners, we should be using AI tools to help us to come up with prospecting lists. Once you have that prospecting list on ground, you have one huge problem solved. You're not waking up every day confused. What is my next step? You're waking up today on a Friday morning. You have a list of 3 companies you're supposed to go and see. Because yesterday you used the AI tool to be able to come up with a bunch of ideas. That is how the Nigerian business owner should be using AI tools. Sorry, by the way, forgive me for the noise in the background. Weekends, the whole family's around, so expect to hear some noise in the background. So, Mr. Josh, you and your crew, the only 3 of you, you should be grappling heavily with AI tools to solve these kinds of problems. What is my plan for prospecting? Do I have a prospecting list? Can I get contact details of specific companies that I'm going to meet? Things like that. Because if you're going to limit yourself to, excuse me, if you're going to limit yourself to companies within your own neighborhood or people you can think of and stuff like that, you exhaust the whole thing pretty quickly. But sure, anyway, it's 20 minutes, so let me not dwell too long on this. I think you guys understand what it is that I'm trying to say. So, in our chats, Josh says that the business currently faces a growth challenge, of course, which is obvious because you're a young company, 5 months, so definitely you're at that growth stage. So, they have been running digital ads for the past 2 weeks. That is from when he started chatting with me. They've been running ads for 2 weeks. Please bear that in mind. The advertisements have only run for 2 weeks. Then they have conducted physical outreach with flyers, and sales have been slow. But Josh says that in contrast, they have nearby competitors that are handling 2 containers every day, 3 containers every day, 4 containers every day. And that's part of the thing that shows Josh that there is market potential. But he says that team is small, that there's the CEO, and then there's him, and then there's a part-time agent, and they're trying to recruit a new salesperson to focus on physical marketing, to start reaching out to wholesalers and start reaching out to importers. So a couple of thoughts now. You've been running digital ads for 2 weeks. There's one thing that I would love for Nigerian business owners to understand about the nature of advertising. This is how advertising works. Advertising works because your message, excuse me, your message goes out into the market at a certain frequency. People get used to it. And it is after that that people start taking action because they become familiar. Now, assuming you are my age set, you remember Honeywell, noodles, bam bam la la, bam bam la la. It's not as if the first time they released that thing, people went out to go and buy Honeywell. Or even older, Indomie, Indomie, Indomie noodles. It's not as if the first time Indomie noodles dropped, people just went out to go and buy. You run the campaign for a while. When it reaches the stage that children in the neighborhood are singing Indomie, Indomie, Indomie noodles, that is when the children will now say, Mommy, 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 buy me Indomie, buy me Indomie. That is how advertising works. You don't run a campaign for 2 weeks or for 1 month and then you say this thing is not working. Have you let this thing run for any length of time for for all these dynamics I'm talking about to kick in? 2 weeks is not enough to show that a campaign is succeeding or not succeeding. In fact, if you want to advertise on, I think it's Facebook. Within Facebook Ad Manager, they'll recommend you that at least drop money for 1 month. Let's know what's going on. So whether you like it or not, that's just the dynamics. Is an advertising campaign working in less than 2 weeks? Honestly speaking, excuse me, we can see some signs whether we're heading to the promised land or not. But 2 weeks is not enough to say this thing worked or this thing didn't work. It's not. So Indomie is coming into the market. Indomie, Indomie, Indomie noodles. Jingle. I say jingle strategy. And then after them, the competitors. What do? Honeywell, noodles, bam bam la la. The same strategy, but it needs time for the jingle or for the patterns to become ingrained in people's mind, and then the children start saying, "Mommy, buy me Indomie," or "Mommy, buy me Honeywell." So 2 weeks. I don't know. We'll have to look at the campaign, but 2 weeks, you haven't given it enough time. In fact, Facebook will advise you at least 1 month before we can separate the wheat from the chaff. Now, it's good that they're using physical outreach and using flyers. That is good because the mistake that lots of businesses make is you're coming into business and then they'll be doing everything online. They'll show me Instagram page. Okay, good. They'll show me TikTok. Okay, good. They'll show me website. Okay, good. What is the plan for talking to people face to face? How do you think you're going to build a business if every single thing that you're doing is online? Don't you people realize that online strategies like content marketing and things like that are long term plays? In other words, there is no kind of online whatever that you want to do that can give you results in less than 1 year. None. Now, people like to point to the business owner who, was able to do it, but in case you haven't noticed, that person is an outlier. It's not typical. That is the reason why, even if you're going to point to anybody, usually you can only point to one or two. The normal way is that, all join. Online activity is good, but then physical prospecting, real life activities as well. Two of them join together. That's how you make it work. Some of you are sleeping online. Stop sleeping online. Be doing online, be doing offline. So I'm glad that Joshua, that you and your team, you're already doing that. So for flyers, things have been slow. No problem. I'll get to that. But one more thing, Josh, you said nearby competitors are handling two, three, four containers. Okay, fine. But there's also a problem that a mistake some of us make when we come into the market. Josh, you and your crew, you guys are just 5 months into this business. I'm sure some of your competitors have been there 5 years, 10 years, 15 years. Looking at them and comparing yourself to where they are now, you're giving yourself unnecessary heartache. Unnecessary. Because whatever they have achieved, excuse me, whatever those people have achieved, three containers every day, four containers every day, hmm, what they have achieved, they didn't achieve that in 5 months. So calm down. They didn't. If you must compare yourself, this comparison trap that we do in business and in online, you compare yourself to where people were when they started at your own stage. So let's say me now, for instance, I want to compare myself to Dangote. I should not compare myself to Dangote now because Dangote has been doing his thing since, 1960, whatever, since before I was born. So if I want to compare myself to Dangote, I would say when Dangote was a young man at so and so stage, what was he doing? Then I'll now compare that to what me I'm doing now. That way I'll be able to learn appropriately. So if when Dangote was my age, he was making some kind of moves, I'll now know that, oh, at my age, I don't suppose they, put one or two things in order according to that pattern. Because I'm comparing myself to the appropriate stage that Dangote was at that time. If I'm comparing myself to Dangote now, I'm giving myself too much heartache. Too much. If I'm comparing myself to Elumelu now, I'm giving myself too much BP. Elumelu has been building what he has been building since I was in primary school. So I can't now just be comparing myself to Elumelu like now. It'll be a matter of when Elumelu was a young man and he still had hair because he's bald now. So when Elumelu still had hair, what was he doing? Then the things that he was doing, I'll now pattern myself after that. So all these freight forwards now that are doing 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 containers every week, fantastic, no problem. We should ambitious, we aspire. But befriend one of these people and try and find out that, bros, when you were your first year within business, what were you doing? The things that they tell you, be writing them down. Those are some of the things that you be applying. By the way, I hope you joined association. You know, Freight Forwarders Association of Nigeria, blah blah blah. All those things. Join all those things. That is where you meet your seniors. You network, you party up with people, you have some frank conversations, and there is always one man, at least one man or one woman. There's always at least one who will say, "Ah, I like your drive. Come, let me teach you one or two things." Those people exist. If you haven't met them, you're not hanging out. Like you're not mingling enough. So go and be joining all these your association, go for all these your meetings. There will be at least one person who will say, I like your drive. Come, have you tried this? Have you tried this? And when you meet that person and the person says, have you tried this? Have you tried this? Listen up carefully, Josh, or any other person who is listening. Do not give that person excuses. You say thank you, sir, or you say thank you, ma. Then you go and apply the thing. So that the next time you meet the person, you tell the person, sir, the last time we spoke, you said this, I went out and I tried it, these were the results, or this is where I failed. That person will now take you like, oh, this guy has sense. This is a serious somebody. The person will now be willing to invest more time with you because the person spoke. You didn't say but. You went and you applied. You came back and you even now gave them update. The person will continue to give you more advice, more assignment, more assignment. When they talk, do not give excuses. The person is talking, they're not collecting any single money from you. The payback, the enjoyment, the sweet in belly that they're getting out of it is the fact that you are going and applying and you seem to be making progress. So, anybody who is in this situation, you're starting, you run into one of these people, please, no excuses. None. None. Listen, apply, come back to the person, go and give them report card. This is what happened, this is what did not happen, this is where I hook, this is where I made progress. You'll find that some of those relationships will be very, very beneficial. But don't come in at 5 months and then compare yourself to somebody who has been in the game for 5 years. You have plenty of heartache, unnecessary heartache. And um, building a business is hard. So some of these small, small stresses that we can remove from ourselves, let us remove so that we'll be able to think clearly. Then your ads that you've been running, apart from the time frame, 2 weeks, there's something we need to consider. Whenever we're trying to what's the word? Debrief. Okay, let's say debrief. When you're trying to debrief your advertising campaigns, we're trying to figure out, we're running a post mortem, we're trying to figure out what went wrong. We can always look at the targeting. Was our targeting correct? Was the message seen and received by the right kind of people? Because sometimes that's where the mistake happens. The advertisement is going out, but is hitting the wrong people, and there's no amount of activity that we do to the wrong people that would help us get the right kind of results. None. So we have to look at the targeting. What kind of targeting did you use in your online campaign? Then copy. Copy is the words, the text, the images, the or whatnot that you used. These are also things that affect the effectiveness of our advertising campaigns. So the copy that we use, did we use the right kind of words? Did we use the right kind of images? Then another thing we're going to look at for our digital advertising campaigns is CTAs, call to action. You'll be surprised the number of people who advertise without putting a call to action. The reason why I know is because I've done it. My very first advertisement that I ran on Facebook was a wonderful campaign about a surprise birthday party that a wedding planner called me, and like the reach was fantastic. Like tens of thousands of reach and or whatnot. But I did not put a single call to action in that advertisement. I didn't tell anybody, "Are you planning a proposal? Click here." I didn't put, "Are you planning a wedding? Click here." I didn't put a single call to action. And I was frustrated that this thing was seen by tens of thousands of people and I didn't get one single job from that post. One. And then I was moping, no, advertising doesn't work. How will the advertising work? I didn't put a call to action. So people saw the lovely piece. Oh, fantastic. They saw the lovely piece. Maybe a few people followed. But I didn't say, "Are you planning a wedding? Click here." I was expecting that the person who is planning the wedding, out of the goodness of their heart, would just go ahead and click. Too many Nigerian business owners are running advertising campaigns, no single one call to action. I know it because I've done it. And I talk to clients who are running advertising campaigns. I say, "Well, let me see what you're doing." I say, "Okay, where's the CTA?" They'll say, "Which one be CTA?" So we have to check. For some of you, that's the single problem that is happening. No CTA, everything beautiful, everything fine, everything fresh, everything on point. You've been running the thing, but what are people supposed to do next? Should they click here? Should they call this number? Should they go to the hmm? Josh reached out to me. A couple of people are reaching out to me. Why do you think they're reaching out to me? Because I put a call to action in every single podcast episode. I say call this number. Therefore, people call the number. Before I started putting the CTA there, you think people were reaching out to me? Maybe one or two on LinkedIn. But now every day people are reaching out. Why? Because I'm putting CTA, call to action. Call to action just means what you want people to do next. So, Josh, to be able to be sure, whether it's your advertising campaign, is a correct one or not. 2 weeks is too short. But even that, we'd have to look at your targeting. What targeting parameters did you set? Were you targeting the right people? We'd have to look at the copy. What kind of words did you use? What kind of images did you use? Was it pure? Was it not pure? Then we'd have to look at call to actions. Did you use any call to action? If you did, were they appropriate? If they were appropriate, how strong was the call to action or how easy? So these are the sorts of things that we're going to have to look at. Then Josh also wants to hire a new salesperson. Now, in my own opinion, hiring a new salesperson, Mr. Josh, this is premature. It's too early. Remember, you've only been in business 5 months. By your own admission, you are struggling with sales. So, even without you telling me, I know that you don't have an SOP, standard operating procedure or framework. You do not have a framework for how sales are to be conducted within your business. You are hoping that you will hire this new salesperson and this new salesperson is going to figure things out. Unfortunately, Mr. Josh, that is not how it works. Or any other person who is listening now who is in a similar situation as Josh. You've been in business 5 months. You're hoping that if you hire a new salesperson, that the person will come and grow your sales. It does not work that way. You need to have been doing this for a certain length of time. You need to have been able to have figured out a couple of things. Number one, the ICP, the ideal customer profile. Who is the ideal customer? What is our target audience? The people that pay us the most money or the people that we like running after? You need to have figured out this question first. Because when you hire a salesperson, and you've already figured out who the best people are, you will help yourself and this salesperson very well if on day one you tell the person, congratulations, sit here, here's your desk. Now, these are the people we are running after. 1, 2, 3, 4. You can see that the person can now get down to business because you've done the work over the last 5 months or 1 year, figuring out the hard questions. The person's zone is like, is this the target? The person can now throw himself or herself straight into the line of battle because you figured out that first part. A lot of you are trying to hire salespeople, the ICP. You don't know. You're hoping that this person will come and try and figure it out. So, you figure out your ICP. You now figure out the most effective channels. Some of you have not even figured out which channel is the most effective. Is it when you go and meet them face to face in the shop? Is it when you run advertisements and they slide into your DM? Or is it when you pick up the phone and call people cold or send cold emails? Like, you haven't figured a couple of these things out. You need to figure out some of these basic things first so that when you have bringing a salesperson, you'll be telling the salesperson that, look, this is what we figured out. This is what works. Oh yeah, go run with this. Versus bringing a salesperson in fresh and you're hoping that the salesperson is going to build everything from scratch. So if you have no SOPs, standard operating frameworks, if you have no frameworks, if you have no laid down procedures, the person that you're bringing in to sell, it's not as if they won't succeed, but it's going to take a lot of time. If you have gotten rid of some of the guesswork, these are the people we like. These are the channels that they seem to respond well. These are the offers that seem to work the most. Where I take this information, go ye and sell. Until you do that, you've not entirely set up this person for success. So trying to hire a salesperson now, just 5 months in, too soon. CEO and you and this part-time agent that you have, you guys need to figure out a couple of things before you bring in this new salesperson. And then also you need to have how will I put it now? You need to have a framework on how you're going to be able to assess performance before you bring the person in. Because when you bring in this person 2 weeks into the job, is the person doing well? You don't know because you don't even know what it is that you need to track, what you need to measure, what you need to assess, whether this person is doing well or not. So 2 weeks in, are they doing work? I don't know. 1 month in, are they doing work? I don't know. Your one is you're looking at the bank account. You want to be hearing binging. You want to hear money coming in. But in the meantime, how do you assess that they're performing well? You do not know. Hiring a salesperson now at 5 months, still premature. You and the CEO. In fact, because you and CEO are the big brains, let's even ignore this person who is a part-time agent because he's part-time. What that means is that guy has his own hustle. And I'm willing to bet my left that that guy will pay attention to his own hustle that is clicking first before he pays attention to your own. So you and CEO, you are the ones who are carrying AGM maritime logistics on your head. So this work falls to two of you. That part-time guy, yeah, well, continue to carry him along. But honestly speaking, it falls to you and it falls to CTO. I say CTO, CEO. You need to figure out a couple of things before you bring in a salesperson. Then let's see what else. Okay, they did flyers. Now for flyer outreach, we also need to consider a few things to figure out whether um, your flyer outreach campaign was successful or not, or could have been more successful. So targeting is also important, or spread in this case. You are a freight forwarding company. I know you don't describe yourself as that. So let me just say freight. Let me just use freight forwarding. You're a freight forwarding company, a shipping company. Now, you let's say you might have been dropping flyers, but unfortunately, most of the flyers that you're dropping are being picked up by people like me. I don't do any shipping anymore. Or maybe picked up by someone who is an educational consultant, or maybe a primary school teacher, or maybe a banker or something. In that case, the targeting of your flyer outreach was off, and so there was no way that thing would have made you any money. So targeting and then spread. Where were you dropping those flyers? Were you just handing out flyers generally in traffic? Or did you go to Trade Fair Complex in Lagos and start handing them out? In that case, that might not have been a good idea because every single person in Trade Fair in Lagos is just like you. So handing out the flyers to them is not going to it's not going to make sense. So we need to debrief now. We need to figure out that one first. Troubleshoot that one. The flyers, no problem. Where did you drop those flyers? And who were you giving them to? That's the first thing. Then number two, we're also going to try and figure out how many flyers did you give out? Because looking at our brothers and sisters in America, in Nigeria we don't measure anything. So in America, flyers have maybe like 1 to 3% conversion rate. What that means is if you drop 100 flyers, we expect one person or maybe three people to call us. That's how it works in America. I suspect Nigeria will even be lower. But remember, flyers, 1 to 3% conversion rates. So, in other words, if you want to have 10 people calling you in a week at 1%, Abby, that means you should drop, is that 1,000 flyers, Abby? Okay, let me stop here before, you know, people realize that I'm not good at mathematics. That's why I studied law. If I was good at math, I would have studied engineering or architecture or something. So, Bob, run the math. How many people do you want to call you? You want 20 people to call you? So, that 20 should be 1% of a larger number. So, do the math. That's the number of flyers. Excuse me, the number of flyers that you need to send out. This whole part of how many did you send out and quantity. The reason why I will never stop saying this because this is a mistake I made myself. I went and I printed some good stuff, man, like correct stuff. Everybody who saw my stuff was like, man, this shit is dope. Like, it's cool, it's correct. But then one day, when I was packing house, I checked my old, because I had these big boxes where I used to store things. I checked inside the box, and I think I still had like, I think it was up to like 3,000 or 4,000, like 3,000 or 4,000 flyers left. When I saw it, and I started asking myself, like, come, how many did I even send out? I made all these beautiful things, and how many did I send out? That means I only sent out like 300, 400. This one that I still have like, 3,000, 4,000 here. How many did I even send out? And it occurred to me, no wonder my flyers did not work. Did I even send out enough? The conversion rate on flyers is low, 1% to 3%. That's what our brothers and our sisters in America would tell us. in Nigeria, I suspect is lower. So the honest truth is, a lot of you who are disappointed by the flyers you've given out, a lot of you haven't even started work. You'll find that you make these flyers, they look nice, they look really sweet, and then you try and deliver a few on the first day. By the time you start on Monday, by Friday, you're kind of tired. Maybe from next week, things come up, you kind of forget. At the end of the month, if you look back, you will see that at best, maybe you delivered two or three flyers. Sorry, I say two or three, maybe like 200 or 300. Now, if we're in America, 1% to 3% conversion rate. So if you send 200, that means we expect, are we? That means at the lowest, we expect two people to call us. A 3% conversion rate for 200. Are we? Anyway, let me stop here before I display my ignorance. But bottom line, what I'm saying is, a lot of us, when we do flyer, our flyer game is very, very weak. We didn't give out enough. If you went to the printer and you booked a run of 5,000 copies, please make sure you exhausted that 5,000 before you start complaining that it is not working. Please don't complain your flyer game is not working. You're not sure how many you gave out, but you know you paid the printer for 2,000 copies, and then you check inside your room, you see that you still have 1,200 copies there. You have not given enough. So, Josh, we'd have to sit down and discuss these sorts of things to be able to know. And then, of course, copy. Did you use the right words? Did you use the right images? Things like that. And then call to action, because lots of people have wonderful flyers, no single call to action. That's also another mistake that I made. So the models, the images that I used were nice. The images were glossy and everything. And I put my office details, because then I had an office. My office details were there. My phone number was there, but I didn't, put in screaming whatever. Are you planning to get married soon? Call this number now. I didn't put, are you curious? Offering 15% discount if you call before December 31st. I didn't put none of that. Design something that was nice, something that was sweet, something that was glamorous, and something that looked expensive. We didn't put CTA. We now started distributing it. Then your boy, me, was now frustrated that people were not calling. So there's a lot to look into when we're trying to debrief these sorts of things. Then Josh also says that the current marketing strategy around revolves around a value proposition of peace of mind, emphasizing no delays and no hidden charges. Now, no delays and no hidden charges. That is cool. That is pretty. That's pretty nice. It's awesome. Well, Josh, just remember, please, in your marketing efforts and in your sales conversations, the more specific we are, the better. Don't say no delays and don't say no hidden charges. You have to be specific. Instead of saying no delays, you say, I don't know, guaranteed we'll finish in 3 weeks, and not a single day later. Because no delays can mean anything. So the more specific you are, the better. Then you say no hidden charges. No hidden charges is kind of vague. You can say, you pay a 25% administrative fee, and it covers this, that, and you're not going to be charged anything else apart from that 25% or that 2.5% or whatever. But see, the more specific you are, the better. So it's another thing we'd have to look into if we're having a consulting session between us. Then Joshua also said that they reach out to busy market traders. Excuse me. And he said that the market traders don't have the time or the inclination to listen to sales pitches during the day. So that's a problem that they're facing. And I agree with you. Which is precisely the reason why when you go and meet people, you don't make a sales pitch. You don't. What you do when you meet people is, first of all, you need to try and find out if they're interested in your product or your service. So the person is a busy market trader. You go in there, you greet the person. I'm from AGM Maritime Logistics. And then you ask a couple of questions. So, do you do export or do you do import? If the person says yes, good. Are you using somebody? The person says yes. Okay. You can start asking questions about their experience with that person, because you're trying to figure out, are you happy with the person you're using? Instead of coming and excuse me, coming and giving the person a sales pitch that you crafted when you were in the office, you'll have a better excuse me, you'll have a better conversation if you come in there and the conversation is more of, oh, good morning, bros. I beg, bros, do you export or import? Oh, you import. Oh, you're already using somebody. Okay, are you happy with the person? Start the conversation of that way. Don't go and be giving people sales pitches. It's not just that they're busy. Nobody likes listening to a sales pitch. I can be on my LinkedIn. Somebody sends me a message. It's a sales pitch. Even if I have nothing else doing in the world, you think I want to sit down and be reading a sales pitch or listening to a sales pitch? Stop making pitches. But anyway, we'll talk more about that later. Then, let's see. Oh, okay, it's almost 1 hour. Okay, so Joshua says that he thinks his primary um, obstacle is establishing trust with skeptical prospects. Oh, good. Yes, that they're skeptical because they already have long term relationships with other people. Oh, fantastic. And that is true. And that is one thing that some of you business owners do not realize. Okay. For certain kinds of businesses, okay, like for me, I don't face that problem because not lots of people use business consultants in Nigeria. But for some of you, like Joshua is a freight forwarder. All right. The challenge is the person you're going to talk to already has a freight forwarder. If you're in the business of selling stationery, the challenge is any business that you meet already has somebody that they buy stationery from. So the challenge is how do you sell into a business when there is already an existing incumbent? Like somebody's already on ground. They're already using somebody. So that's the primary thing. And so for Mr. Josh, I will give you 10 over 10. You actually hit the nail on the head. Now for lots of people you'll be talking to, that's the biggest challenge. Now since we've already done 1 hour, we'll start looking at some of those things in the next episode. How do you overcome entrenched competition? How do you sell into a business when somebody's already on ground? The person is already there. How do you uproot the person? For some of you, that is your challenge. Let's say you offer cleaning services. You want to sell your cleaning services to a hotel or to an office or to a whatever. The hotel is already using somebody. The office is already using somebody. So what you're trying to do is you're trying to unseat someone. So those of you in these kinds of businesses, stationery, cleaning, what else? Software. Yes, if you're thinking of selling software, the truth of the matter is the company is already using one kind of software. So what you're trying to do is you're trying to tell the person, don't use this software. That my own software is better than this one. So let's start paying attention from the next episode. Then let's see. Okay, so that will be some of the episodes some of the issues that we start exploring in the other episodes. Anyway, so thank you very much for your time and attention. Remember, if you want to connect with me, call me, send me a text message or a WhatsApp message on 080-6466-2140. If you want to be added to the WhatsApp group, send me a message, I'll add you to the group, and you'll be able to check out the PDF summaries. So that's it. Thanks for your time and attention. I'll catch you all some other time. And anyway, let's see what we can do tomorrow. In this case, let's just say Josh now. This will be more like a 3-part thing because I don't think I will exhaust all this gist in the next episode. All right, so catch you guys some other time.